Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to my class today on the basis of dispute negative items on your consumer reports. In this class, I'll cover an introduction to consumer reporting agencies, how to identify errors on your consumer reports, writing a credit dispute letter, following up on your dispute. I'll also cover some different federal laws that protect consumers that you can start with and get to understanding if you're not too familiar. And at the end, I'll hit on some different ways to improve your credit score and keep them on the rise. So without further ado, well, hold on. If you need a pen and paper, go ahead and grab it. But this is video, so you can always pause, rewind, and give your boy some more time. I appreciate it. So without further ado now, let's get to it. So in this section is the introduction to consumer reporting agencies, or CRAs. I'll be flipping off and on, calling them consumer reporting agencies or CRAs. So just keep up with me. Secondary CRAs or consumer reporting agencies, it all means consumer reporting agencies. So just stay with me. A lot of y'all call them credit bureaus, but I am here to tell y'all they are not credit bureaus. I say again, they are not credit bureaus. We give them way too much authority over us. So a bureau is a governmental department. CRAs aren't associated to the government. In this section, we'll cover what are consumer reporting agencies, what information they collect, how was the information used, what determines your credit score, and I put on here what are your rights as a consumer, but I actually pushed that down to the end, towards the end. So we'll cover that a little later. Now, let's get to the slides. Oh, and I'm sorry if I talk a little fast, but I love this stuff, so I get a little excited, so I speed it up sometimes. If I'm talking too fast, just pause me and rewind what I said and then get it again. Let's start talking about what consumer reporting agencies are. Consumer reporting agencies are businesses that collect information about your credit history. This information includes your payment history, your debt levels, which is called utilization, your credit inquiries, and any public records about you pretty much. The major three consumer reporting agencies are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. But there are a ton of secondary CRAs in a lot of different sectors. So let's get to that little section real quick. So I'm not going to dive too deep into the secondary consumer reporting agencies for this class, but I just want to let y'all know that there are secondary CRAs. A few of them are LexisNexis. They pull information from your public records like bankruptcies and stuff like that, and they sell this information to the major three consumer reporting agencies. Another one is CoreLogic. They collect and analyze information from like property data, where they sell all this information to lenders, governmental agencies, and to the major three consumer reporting agencies. And then you have your check systems. Check systems, they provide information like checking account history and all that type of stuff, where they sell to banks and financial institutions. They also sell it to the major three consumer reporting agencies. So I did do a video about the secondary CRAs, and I'll put the video somewhere up here where you can go to that link, or you can go to this link right here and just put it in your browser, and it'll take you to the CFPB website. The CFPB is actually a governmental agency. It's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They govern the CRAs, they govern banks, lenders, and all type of other financial institutions. Now, let's get back to the major three CRAs, which is Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So these CRAs collect information like your credit history, your public records, your employment history, your education history, and your personal information. So they collect and sell this information to creditors, lenders, and other businesses. So these businesses can use the information to make decisions about how much money to give you, if they should extend you credit, how much credit they can give you, and the rates you'll pay back. So before we move on to the next slide, I just want to note, if you have public records like bankruptcy or child support on your consumer report, you can have them removed because they weren't issued by the furnisher of the information. What I mean is the courts don't furnish this information to the CRAs. They get it from the secondary CRAs because they pull it from your public records. Now, according to the FCRA, everything must be verifiable. So to have it removed, write a letter to the court. This was done at, just pretty much stating, hey, did you report this information to the consumer reporting agencies? They'll write you back pretty much telling you that they don't report information to the CRAs. So once you have that letter, take that letter and send a dispute letter to the CRAs. There's reporting your information, stating this account wasn't reported to the CRAs. Now, if they respond with verified, open a complaint with the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, add that letter from the court, the letter they sent you back from the CRA saying it was verified, and then just submit your complaint with the CFPB. In the last slide, I covered what type of information the major 3 CRAs collect. Now, I just want to let you all know how this information is used that they collect. It's used to create consumer reports and to calculate credit scores. Then it's so lenders can make better lending decisions, so insurers can assess your risk as a policyholder and premiums that you'll pay and the coverage you're eligible for. Also, they sell it to employers so they can assess your risk as an employee. They can also make better decisions about your salary and other benefits that you qualify for. The major 3 consumer reporting agencies are making billions of dollars yearly selling consumer information to other people. Now, that's why it's important for you to understand credit so you can fix your credit and start building it up and use it for yourself, and you can start benefiting off of it. Let's move on. What determines your credit score? Your credit score ranges from 300 to 850 points. So that's 550 points you have to work with. And it's made up of the following information. It's made up of payment history, which makes up 35% or up to 192.5 points. It's the biggest part. Debt utilization makes up 30% or 165 points. Credit age makes up 15% or 82.5 points. Credit mix and credit inquiries both make up 10%, which both add up to 55 points each. So payment history is very important to make your payments on time every time, because it makes up the biggest portion of your score. Debt utilization, keep those utilization rates below 10%. I recommend at 0 if you can. The lower you are, the better for you. You'll get credit increases a lot quicker, and it's going to raise your credit score. Let's talk about the different ways to get a copy of your consumer report. I'll go over the ways that I know how to. If you know any extra ways, you can leave them down in the comments below. So you're entitled to get a free copy of your consumer report once a year from the 3 major consumer reporting agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, once a year. But until the end of 2023, you're entitled to get a free copy once weekly due to COVID. So you can request your free consumer reports at annualcredit.com. Now, this method has actually never worked for me in total. What I mean by that is every time I've tried to pull it, I always get an error message on 1 or 2 of them. So I was never able to pull all 3 reports perfect. But I have had people tell me they was able to get all their reports without any problems. Before I did this slideshow, I tried to pull all 3 of them again, and I got an error on all 3 of them. So yeah, it's never worked for me. But it's definitely worth giving it a try, plus it's a free method. Now, my favorite is the credit monitoring services. These services cost you around $20 a month or less to use, but they'll give you a side-by-side look at all 3 of the consumer reports. This allows you to see all your accounts for all 3 and identify errors and incomplete accounts a lot more easily. These services typically also offer other features such as like identity protection and fraud alerts. Now, if you're serious about repairing your credit, I'd advise investing into yourself and getting one of these credit monitoring services. Excuse me, I'm trying to, on my screen, it just went a little black. But so yeah, I would advise y'all to get a credit monitoring service just to make it a lot more easy for you to identify the errors and incomplete information on your consumer report. If you do want to use one, I use Smart Credit. I'll also have a link down there for Smart Credit, and I will get paid like $5 every month that you would pay your bill. But you don't have to use Smart Credit. There are a lot of them out there. I'll have different links down there as well, so y'all can choose what you want to use. Now, then you can go to your bank or your credit union. Some banks and credit unions offer free consumer reports to their customers. You just have to find a section where you can request it online or call. Credit card companies also offer the same thing for their card holders. So with this way, I just leased a vehicle a couple weeks ago, and they came out with a consumer report that had the score ranging from 200 to 900. And I know my experience score already, but for some reason on their report, it dropped my experience score by like 10 points, which was still cool. I was still good, but it wasn't right. It was inaccurate. So I was asking them all kind of questions. Where the hell did y'all get y'all consumer report? and your credit scores from blah, 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 and all this. So just be mindful that I don't know if these will be accurate for you. Another way to go is going straight to the consumer reporting agency. You can request them online. You can call or write them a letter requesting a copy of your consumer report. If you want the score too, they usually charge a fee for that. I believe it's under $10, but don't quote me on that. Lastly, you have Credit Karma. Credit Karma, you're able to get your TransUnion and Equifax reports and score for free, but you have to pay to add the Experian. But you can just go to Experian.com and create a free account, and they'll give you your score with your free account. So then you can have all three. I think Credit Karma is pretty valid as far as verifying information that's on your consumer report. And for mine, the score pretty much matches up accurately as well, and it updates pretty quickly. So I think that's a good way to go if you're on a low budget. But Experian also offers the free credit report too, so definitely create your account. You need to create you an account on Experian.com, Equifax.com, and TransUnion.com anyways. Just create the free account. So when you get your consumer reports, carefully review it for any errors. While you're going over your consumer report, make sure you're highlighting all the inaccurate and incomplete information, because this will be attached to the letter you're sending as part of your evidence. You'll be looking for things to highlight, like accounts that you don't recognize, late payments that you don't remember making, debts that have been paid off but are still showing in your report, incorrect information about your credit limit or your payment history, verifiable information like from the courts or a business that's out of business, incomplete information like no account number showing or no payment status, no last activity, no monthly payment, etc. So any section on the report that has the information that doesn't match all three consumer reporting agencies, you need to be highlighting. Make sure all your accounts that are negative, make sure they haven't reached the statute of limitations, all that type of information. If the account number has an account number for Equifax, but then the Experian and TransUnion are different, is wrong. If the status says open for one and closed for the other two, is wrong for that one that it says open. If the balance amount is 240 on Equifax, 210 on Experian, 210 on TransUnion, is wrong. Anything that's not accurate on all three is wrong. Highlight it. If you find errors on your consumer report, you can dispute them. To dispute an error, there are two ways to well, there's actually three ways to dispute an error on your consumer report. You can dispute it directly with the furnisher of the information. I didn't put it on here, but you'll use the same exact method as disputing it with the consumer reporting agency. So directly, if you want to dispute it directly with the consumer reporting agency, you can contact the consumer reporting agency that issued the consumer report and dispute the error directly. You can find the contact information for the consumer reporting agencies on their websites. I never suggest submitting the consumer report dispute on the website because you don't have proof of when this letter was delivered or anything like that. So by the 15 USC 1681I, which is the procedure in case of disputed accuracy, they have 30 days to respond to your dispute. That's why you want that tracking number so you know when it arrives, because their time starts once it arrives. Or you can dispute through the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You can file a complaint with the CFPB. The CFPB will then forward your dispute to the Consumer Reporting Agency. This method is usually what I do after I've already gathered a little evidence on the Consumer Reporting Agency that they're in violation. I file a complaint through the CFPB. I've sent 2 letters to the CRA, blah, blah, blah. So, or you can use the CFPB. For example, when I used to send letters to Experian, as soon as I send a letter, even though I attach all my identification to identify me, they'll respond with something saying that they didn't think that I was trying to reinvestigate my consumer report. They didn't think it was me or something like that. But these are usually stall tactics that the consumer reporting agencies use under the frivolous or irrelevant section to the 15 USC 1681I. So if that's done, I don't even wait to send 2 or 3 letters. I just go straight to the CFPB, attach my letter I sent, attach their response, attach all my identification, and they usually get the ball rolling. Oh, and if you're sending it straight to the furnisher, everything's the same. You just get the furnisher's information, attach your letter, and then attach all your identification, attach your account number, all that type of stuff, and then just send it straight to the furnisher, the information. If you're writing a letter to the consumer reporting agencies, the letter should include the following information. It should have your name, your address, it should have your name, your address, your date of birth, your social, either your full or your last four, the specific error you're disputing, the account number for the account, any documentation that supports your dispute. Also attach a copy of your ID, a utility bill for identification purpose, and this is optional, but attach a copy of your social security card. I attach everything, so there's no problem with identifying who I am and what I'm trying to do. So you can find a simple dispute letter online anywhere, a lot of places, or you can write your own. Just be sure to keep a copy of your letter for your records. I'll also have in the description, I'll have a sample where you can go to my Dropbox or whatever and just click it and download it. So this takes us to how to send your dispute letters off. Always send your letters off certified so you can keep track of the timeline with your tracking number. A lot of people say you should get the little green sheet where they have to sign for it and all that. I don't think it's required as long as you have the tracking number that shows it was delivered. And once it's delivered, they're already on the timeline. You're already on your 30 days, according to 15 USC 1681I. So they have 30 days to respond once they receive your dispute. Usually once they receive your dispute, they send it off to the furnisher of your dispute. The furnisher then sends it back to the CRA, and the CRA sends it back to you, whatever decision they make. So if you need to send additional documents, if after you already sent your packet in, then they get an extra 15 days. So just make sure you have everything at once before you send your stuff off. During the investigation, they'll contact the creditor, like I said, that provide the information to the consumer reporting agency. Allow them the time required by the FCRA to respond to your letter, 30 days or 45 days if you send additional information during the process. If the consumer reporting agency finds that there was an error made, they'll update your consumer report with the deletion of the account, or they'll update the information so it's accurate. If they decide that the error was not made, they'll send you a letter explaining their decision pretty much, saying that it was verified. Sometimes they'll respond to the letter saying that it was frivolous or irrelevant. This letter will say something like they didn't think it was you requesting the information, or you didn't provide enough information to verify your identity. This is used a lot of time as a stall tactic. So if you did provide all the information that's needed to verify yourself, open a complaint with the CFPB, and this will get the ball rolling. But if they did respond back with that it was verified, you can appeal that decision. To appeal against that decision, you just need to write another letter to the consumer reporting agency. I call this letter my method of verification letter. So this letter should include all the information that you placed in the first one, but also ask for the method that was used to verify the information. Now, once you send off that letter, the consumer reporting agency will review your appeal and make a final decision. If the decision is still against you, gather all your evidence, the letters you sent, all their responses, your highlighted consumer report with all the inaccurate or incomplete items, your identification, and any other documentation that you have as evidence, then file a complaint with the CFPB. So that's the process on starting the reinvestigation process on your consumer report and following up with the method of verification. Now, in addition to disputing errors on your consumer report, there are a lot of things you can do to improve your credit score. One, paying your bills on time, every time. Not just one time, but every time. Just one late payment can drop your score a lot. If you feel like you'll be late on a payment, just contact the lender and let them know you'll be late and see if you can move your date. A lot of times you can change your due date on these different accounts. Reducing your debt. This is the second biggest portion to your credit score. Make sure you pay off your debts in full if you can, but definitely try to have it at least 10% or lower. Also know and understand the difference between due date and your report date. It's big. You can be doing everything right, but just not understanding what report date and due date is, and it can hurt you a lot. Increasing your credit limit. A higher credit limit means more utilization. Getting a secure credit card. This is a great way to start building credit. You're able to add your own limit after about 3 to 6 months of using this and making payments on time, and you're having a low utilization. This card issuer will usually send you your initial deposit back and raise your credit limit. This is also a good way for your kids that's about to get out the house for them to start establishing credit. And if you're pretty savvy with your credit and you've been doing everything right, you don't have late payments, you keep your utilization low on your credit cards, it might be a good idea to add them as an authorized user so they can get that credit age and that credit history and that utilization and all that. So this will help them out a lot. But if you're not responsible with your credit, do not mess up your kids' future by starting them off on the wrong path. Now, by following these tips, you can improve your credit score and get the best possible terms on loans and credit cards. Now, I just want to touch on that report date versus due date real fast. So the report date is your statement's closing date. It's important because it's the date on which your credit card issuer will report your balance to the CRAs. This balance will be used to calculate your credit utilization ratio, which is the second biggest portion of your credit score. So the due date is important too, because if you don't pay your bill, at least the minimum by the due date, you'll be charged late fees and your credit score drop, because payment history is the biggest part of your credit score. Now, I just want to give you an example. So first, I've already made a video on this, so I'll just keep it brief. But I want to give you an example. Say your due date is on the 27th, but your statement date is the 2nd. So you paid your bill in full on the 24th. So it clears by the 27th, right? So once the 28th hits, you went out and maxed your card with the intention to pay it before the due date again. So on the 2nd, that credit card company will be reporting that 100% use ratio, that 100% use utilization. So now your credit score dropped a lot because your utilization makes up 30% or up to 165 points. Even though you didn't pay it, you was going to pay it before the due date. It's always better to have a zero balance or as low as possible on that report date. Now, after that report date, you can go ahead and max that mug out. Then when say you get paid on the 30th or the 29th or whatever. So after the 2nd hits, when they've already reported it on the 3rd, you can go ahead and max it out. And then when your payment's due on the 27th, you can pay the minimum, but just make sure once you get paid, you pay the rest off before your report date. Now you got a 0% utilization still. Look like you never even used it to the consumer reporting agencies. So this will also help you get higher increases on your limits. On this slide, I just want to give you all the index where you can find these acts. You can just Google them. Title 15 USC subchapter 1, you'll get the Truth in Lending Act. So I'm not going to cover them too deeply on this class, because once I create my master class, I'm going to dive in and just dissect each of them one by one. But I'll just quickly cover and tell y'all what they cover. So the Truth in Lending Acts covers a lot of your contracts mostly. It makes it where lenders have to disclose certain things like your APR, the total amounts on loans, the monthly payments, and all that type of stuff. It's a lot of disclosures that they have to put out to you. The 15, and it's covered under 15 USC subchapter 1. Subchapter 15 USC subchapter 2 covers the restrictions on garnishments. The restrictions on garnishments pretty much designed to protect consumers from having their wages garnished too heavily and to ensure that only legitimate debts are garnished. It covers the maximum amount that can be garnished from your wages each week, and a lot of other things. It's good to get in that one and understand if you're dealing with that issue. The third one I'll cover is the Credit Repair Organizations Act, Title 15, Subchapter 2A. So, yeah, credit repair organizations, they got federal laws that they got to abide by as well. It talks about the activities that cover credit repair organizations, what they can and cannot perform. It gives the requirements that credit repair organizations must meet and the rights of consumers who use credit repair organizations. Next is probably my favorite, 15 USC, Subchapter 3, the FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act. Fair Credit Reporting Act pretty much gives rights to consumers to access and correct their consumer reports. It gives you the responsibilities of consumer reporting agencies. It breaks what consumer reporting agencies is. Gives you a lot of different definitions that y'all should look into. But I ain't gonna dive too deep into it, but it's definitely worth looking into. Then you have under 15 USC subchapter 4, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. Obviously, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act prohibits creditors from discriminating against applicants based on your race, color, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, age, or because you're receiving public assistance. So basically, creditors can't refuse to give you a loan because you're Black or Mexican or white or whatever the case is. They can't charge you higher interest rates because you're a female or a male, and so on. My second favorite would be the FDCPA, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. You can find the FDCPA under 15 USC, subchapter 5. The FDCPA covers pretty much debt collectors using unfair and deceptive, abusive practices in order to collect debts. So the FDCPA is designed to protect consumers from all these different threats, harassments, or illegal tactics used by debt collectors to collect debts. So, for example, if you're getting calls by a debt collector, you can just simply tell them, do not call me no more, and they're not supposed to call you no more. Under the FDCPA, 15 USC 1692C, I believe, which is the communication section, it'll tell you all about that. Then you get to your Electronic Fund Transfer Act, 15 USC, subchapter 6. It protects consumers who use electronic fund transfers, like your ATM withdrawals, online bill payments, and direct deposits. It gives you the right to receive certain information about that. All right, let's move on. So briefly, I'll touch on security freezes. I do have a video up here somewhere that covers security freezes. So a security freeze is basically a free service that you can put on your consumer report to prevent creditors from accessing your consumer report without your permission. This can help protect your identity from identity theft because it makes it a lot more difficult for someone to open new accounts in your name. To put a freeze on your consumer report, all you need to do is go through each of the consumer report agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, create you a free online account, go ahead and search for security freeze. Once you find the section, you can just put freeze or unfreeze, and you can freeze it and unfreeze it as you will. Just a note on that, if you are going to try and get credit where somebody needs to pull your report, you need to unfreeze it before they can actually use it. And you have the right to do this as many times as you want. You can freeze and unfreeze at your will. And it's very valuable for you to get this. Nobody can open your credit reports. Nobody can do anything to your consumer report without your authorization at that point. This slide is just information for the major 3 consumer reporting agencies. Here, create you free accounts, create the free accounts. They do have paid accounts or whatever where you'll get your score, identity theft protection, all that type of stuff. But the free accounts is free. You can access your security freezes and all that with the free account. This is the address you will send your disputes to for each of the major 3 consumer reporting agencies. There you have it. You made it to the end. I hope this course has been helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Subscribe to the channel and holler at your boy later. Peace!